For more on the markets and this economic data, we say hello to Anthony Chan, former Chief Economist, JPMorgan Chase. Good to see you. Are we tired about talking about the recession? I mean, does it matter at this point what the technical definition of recession is versus what we're seeing in the actual sort of real economy?
Well, Phil, I think that people like to use quick rules of thumb. And the rule of thumb, of course, is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP gives you a technical recession. But in truth, the dating committee, the business dating committee, looks at a whole bunch of variables. That's a very simplistic way of looking at the overall economy, because there's employment, there is personal income, there is industrial production. There are many variables that they look at. You can't just look at one. And so when you look at this GDP report that came out today, what I gather from it is that we actually are seeing a little bit more strength. If you look at the most important component, which is consumer spending in the quarter, the initial estimate was 1%, then it went up to 1.5%, and now it's 2%. So consumer spending is gaining speed. However, Phil, I do believe we're going to have a recession, and every single day that goes by, with the Federal Reserve remaining adamant and insistent that they're going to continue to raise rates, eventually we'll get into a recession. So I think that the probability of a recession is now inching up to somewhere in the 75% plus range over the next 12 to 18 months that we will get a recession. I don't think we're there yet.
What John talked about earlier was these unemployment numbers, because they were relatively strong, which made the market think that the economy is strong, which made the market think that the Fed's going to raise rates even more. And it made the markets think that because they're going to raise it more, that's going to be bad for the economy. And we've gone crazy in overanalyzing this situation. The bottom line is the Fed wants to chop off inflation, and they have already said they're going to be pain in the market. I suppose this is the pain. Why does the market keep second guessing what the Fed is or isn't going to do when they've already said so?
Well, employment is an important variable and does suggest the economy is a little bit stronger. But even there, I will say that you cannot look at just one variable. And yes, employment is strong, but there's a reason why there's so much demand for employment. And that is because we had COVID. Unfortunately and sadly, we lost over 1 million people that passed away. A lot of them were in the labor force. And guess what? They're not coming back. We also heard from the Bureau of Census that we had over 15 million people that are long haulers of COVID. And some of the estimates suggest that between 3 and 4 million of those people cannot work full time, and they have to work just a few hours. And then, of course, early estimates suggest that a lot of people retired early because of COVID. So you have a compression of people out there that are not in the labor force. And then, of course, even with today's numbers, with the revisions, we find that over a significant amount of money is in savings, higher than the pre-COVID period. So
Anthony,
giving people a little bit longer to not go back to work.
I mean, you're basically saying in a really nice way these numbers aren't accurate, because if those people aren't looking for work or aren't being counted in these numbers, then the numbers aren't as accurate as Wall Street would like them to be. I mean, is that fair to say?
Well, it's not that they're not accurate, Phil. It's just that you have to take everything into account, because I actually took the time to look at the labor force, and the labor force is back. We have a labor force now that is even higher than the pre-COVID. And so people would say, oh, we have all these workers, so why do we have a shortage of labor? Very simple. Because the natural organic growth is somewhere between 50 and 75,000 workers every single month. So it's not correct to look at the numbers. So it's not that the numbers are not correct. It's that you really have to dissect them. And just to look at two numbers, whether it's employment or GDP, and assume that you have a complete understanding of the economy without using your magnifying glass, you're going to get a distorted picture.
All right. It sounds like bonus time and extra work. That is a lot of numbers to crunch, and we will continue to debate whether we're in a recession or not. But in the meantime, I guess the Fed will continue to fight inflation for now. Anthony, thank you very much.